Warning, some viewers may find this content disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
Yes, what brings you to the Fox Den tonight? This must mean, once again, it is midnight lycanthropy time here on StarFox Radio. I do hope everyone is ready to figure out the madness that is going to ensue. Things can get a little messy sometimes, depending on how hungry I am. But let's be real, everyone needs to feed. It is now time for Caleb and myself to take a walk into the darkness.
My creatures of the night, yes, welcome back once again to another episode of Midnight Lycanthropy here on StarFox Radio. We have a friend of the North American Dogman Project and also of our environmentalist Colleen, Mr. Caleb Caton tonight. How you doing, my friend? Long time no talk.
Doing really good. It's just work's been keeping me extremely busy, and this is the first chance I've gotten to talk to you.
It's all good, man. No worries. Everyone has things rolling for sure. So I just appreciate definitely sitting down and trying to figure out what the heck's been going on across the country and the world with some of the strange disappearances and sightings people have been seeing. What do you feel about the Dogman in general, my friend? Are you pretty knowledgeable about the topic? Do you dive into it a lot, or do you tend to focus on other areas of your research, or do you even have an interest more or less at all?
It's definitely something that's piqued my interest, like just doing the surface level dive into it. I haven't had real time to dive deep, dedicate a couple of days to research, but it's a little bit outside my realm of expertise. I'm more into paranormal ghosts and demons and the like.
Pretty cool stuff right there for sure. That's excellent to know. So if I do ever have anybody that does approach me with any sort of encounters like that, it's always good to know people that specialize in that topic so that I can properly forward them on to individuals that can handle that, because I just honestly 100% just focus on the dog, man. And I do a lot of aspects of dealing with it being a living type creature that is existing, but yeah, also we do have some paranormal type reports of them, as well as potentially extraterrestrial, which again, when I do get those reports, I make sure to document them, but I forwarded them on to the people within the North American Dogman Project that can handle that properly. So it's always good to know others such as yourself now that I can forward this stuff on to. When it comes to Dogman in general, is there any sort of questions, more or less, I guess, you'd like to ask, or is there information that you've ever found intriguing, but you did state that you specialize in other areas of expertise on this topic? So
I guess one of the questions I have is, what do you think is its closest known living relative? Because that would kind of give me a base to go off of.
very excellent question. And myself, as well as Jody and Shane Michael Crisp and a lot of other people, including Colleen within the North American Dogman Project and William White and Nuxium. So those are all part of our science team. We really believe there is a lot of merit and evidence supporting that giant cave bears, which spend honestly the majority of their lives in cave systems, dire wolves, cave hyenas, and the Dinopithecus, which is a giant baboon. These all only apparently went extinct around 10,000, 12,000, 13,000, 11,000, give or take, years ago. It's all in the write-up right there. And there's really no reason for any of those animals to have gone extinct. Climate's still very similar. Areas that they did live in weren't really areas that humans densely populated as well. So we think a lot of the encounters people are seeing have something to do with that, because people report seeing hyena type like dogmen and also baboon like type dogmen. And even in general, if people aren't really aware of how terrorizing a baboon looks, they do look like a werewolf, etc. So we definitely think that a portion of what people are seeing are either ancestors or those type animals that are still existing in small type crowds or groups. But we also do think that people have owned exotic pets and do have areas throughout the country where they have hyenas, baboons, etc., and game preserves. Who knows where people come in and hunt, etc. So there's zoos, there's all kinds of areas, and some of these animals have escaped, and we do have documentation of them escaping. And if a hyena or a baboon can survive in Africa, it can sure as heck survive in areas like California, Arizona, and other areas very easily.
Okay, that gives me a decent base to go off of. I guess another question would be, looking at the sightings map on your website, why do you think they are so closely grouped in like Indiana, Ohio, Michigan area as opposed to more West Coast or South? More of the environment?
Great question, and that's excellent that you're on the site right now. We put a lot of work into that for sure, and I call that the werewolf square. I mean, that's pretty much the heart in the country of dogman type encounters. Michigan, Wisconsin, Ohio, Tennessee, Kentucky, West Virginia, parts of Pennsylvania, all clustered in that area. Yet there's also a ton of cave systems. So if you look at where people are going missing and also the areas where people are seeing things, it's all around the cave systems. And that's absolutely nightmare fuel, because that really does support a lot of evidence saying that whatever is happening, that it's either using the cave systems as transportation or taking people into the cave systems.
Okay, so interesting that you brought up the cave systems. Where I'm living currently, just about maybe 30 minutes north, there's a giant cave system running under the city, as well as my home state is known as the Cave State. So I wonder how many sightings have gone unreported, because I only see 4 or 5 reported sightings, and they are all roughly closer to St. Louis, where the majority of the caves are.
Yep, and also do keep in mind that we haven't fully had a chance to update all those pings on the Google map as well. Like, I have a book right now which does include all the pings you see on there, so that does take up a portion of this, but it's 537 pages and counting. So at some point when everything is smooth and churning, and I do have the time and others do, we do want to update that completely, but we have it all on file. It's just we worked on revamping the website, revamping the North American Dogman Project, and I'm really trying to get Midnight Lycanthropy churning and going. So I'm always investing like all my time into our content, my content, etc. So I haven't had a chance to do that yet. Like I said, it's documented. So if anyone does need to see it or hear about it, we have it on file. So it's not the most important at the moment to have that map ping updated. It is, but it's not compared to other stuff we had to work on, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, but back to what you did say with the cave systems, of course, there's going to always be a ton of things that aren't reported correctly, or just in general, depending on if people are around still to report it, or if it was just, say hearsay in small groups of individuals that never really had anyone document it. So that's an excellent question and point, but it always does boil down to how much is documented, which is what we're always trying to do, is make sure that everything is kept on file, and no matter what, as long as it's not faked and we've been able to, as far as we know, verify it, we keep it on file.
Mm-hmm.
How else do you feel about the topic, or do you think it's paranormal based more? Do you think it's a physical animal, or how are your thoughts in general?
With so much uncivilized, underdeveloped land just in the U.S. alone, I'm thinking it's similar to the Bigfoot, where it's an actual living, breathing animal that science just hasn't had a chance to study yet.
That's an excellent observation, and that's where I do fall a lot myself, because people don't realize how across the country, yeah, humans like to be clustered together. There's still a ton of area that's undiscovered. And I mean, just recently they found what they believed, and this is not in the United States, but they thought it was a snake. Because you know how everyone always says large animals or larger animals have all been found? Well, it's not true, because A, they thought this was a snake, but it wasn't a snake. It ended up being a lizard with no legs. But either way, it was like 4 feet long and it lived in the mountain. Yeah, it's super cool. And that's not enormous, but a 4 foot lizard is still pretty decent sized. I wouldn't call that a small animal or a small reptile. So it just shows right there that we as people always think that we know and have discovered everything, yet they find new insects all the time. And we know, I believe 20% of the ocean has been mapped, but we've only actually had like a chance to dive into 10% of that and really try to understand what's occurring. So now, with that, pretty much solidifies we know nothing about the oceans, and we know really nothing about outer space. Now here's some more nightmare fuel. We know less about the cave systems than both of those.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just really something that does need to be looked at by people. And I try to approach it as much with science as possible. And then once science and such and logic doesn't really make sense, then, it's important to look at some of the other aspects. But there are a lot of natural occurrences that cause noises in the forest, whether it's tectonic plates that are moving, mineral deposits, there's earthquakes, there's just things that make noise, okay, and that occur. There's things that cause quote unquote zapping in electronics, meaning rocks cause magnetic poles. There's all kinds of reasons that could naturally cause, say, someone's camera or phone to buzz out. Yet there's also areas, if that's not found and someone's stuff is doing that, well, that's super interesting and does need to be looked into. But I think there are a lot of times things that can be logically explained, meaning I saw a video the other day where people have said bears are uncomfortable up on two legs. I disagree with that. I saw a pretty large grizzly bear. Obviously, he was trained, or she was trained to do this, but they were watching it walk outside of their house by their window, and it walked a good 10, 15 yards pretty easy and did a little waddle on its legs, and it moved. And I think a lot of people don't understand that sometimes.
Mm-hmm. I used to visit the zoo near me a lot, and oftentimes I would see grizzly bears or polar bears or what have you just up on two legs, just either standing or crouching or just walking around. So it's definitely not unusual for them whatsoever.
Great observation. And that's just what I mean sometimes, is I think we as humans just are misidentifying things. Do you agree with that too? Do you think that some of these sightings have to be misidentifications?
I would say definitely some are, just due to the sheer number of them and how unfortunately educated the public is about this stuff. That they see something out of the corner of their eye when it's low light and they immediately think, okay, cryptid, instead of this could be a coyote, it could be a fox, it could be whatever normal animal that you would see on any given night.
Excellent observation. Excellent. And yes, that's how I really try to approach this. I am a very healthy skeptic, meaning I am never negative towards anybody. I just ask questions that need to be put together, and I go into situations skeptical, meaning in a perfect world, yes, everyone would tell the truth. Yet, how many times do we know in history or current times people don't tell the truth? Okay. So,
Hmm.
yes, it doesn't matter. No matter how much we want to always take somebody at face value, if we don't ask proper questions, you're never going to end up finding the proper answers. And here's one for you, like you just said about the misinformation. It's really straight up laughable sometimes, where I saw a post in a Dogman group about somebody saying bears don't have snouts.
What?
Uh, yes. And there was a argument kind of unfolding on below, but just the fact that someone is involved in this quote unquote, as you said, cryptid community, and they don't know that bears have snouts, how can someone like that be spreading information about a topic when, yes, bears do have snouts? They are not directly part of the canine family, but at points in time at the Amphiceno Day, there were a split where it wasn't bear or canine, it's a tweener, you know? So, yes, they have
Hmm.
snouts and look like a canine.
But going back to your point about asking questions and coming in skeptical, I'm the same way on my paranormal investigations. I will go into a situation, like say somebody sends me a text or I hear from a friend, hey, one of my friends thinks their house is haunted. Can you come check it out? First thing I do is I go over there with a notepad and a pen and I just start asking questions. What did you see? What time was it? Etc. And then I go from there.
Yeah, because exactly, if we're not asking questions and piecing it together and automatically just going into a situation, assuming this is true, assumptions are never good in life. I remember my mom used to always tell me that. And especially, yeah, in situations, it's no different than how law enforcement would approach a crime scene. Yes, they're asking skeptical, healthy questions. And unfortunately, there are negative interactions, but I'm just using an example of how, say, crazy murder solved, etc. And they go in there, and when they're asking the people, they might already in their souls or mind know that these people have done this atrocious crime, yet they are asking the questions and they're still talking to this person as if they don't know, meaning they're being skeptic about it because they already know, but they're not just coming out and immediately telling this person, hey, we know what happened more or less. So it's the same way to approach this. You never want to tell somebody directly, hey, I don't believe you. But also, when we leave the situation and we're sitting down trying to actually figure out what's going on, we need to talk to others. And when we all come to the same conclusion, yeah, we don't really believe this individual, we don't need to reach out to them and tell them that, but we are not going to document that and we're not going to further reach out to them.
Mm-hmm. If I come to the conclusion and I go with a team of people and we all agree, hey, there's nothing paranormal going on, we'll actually reach back out to whoever we're investigating for and be like, hey, we don't think it's paranormal. This is what we think it is. If this keeps happening, though, give us a call back and we'll happily come out and do a full investigation.
That's excellent. No, it's definitely, if we knew somebody wasn't hoaxing, we're always going to stay open to help people, but we've definitely caught a ton of people in hoaxes, and we don't directly tell them to their face we know they're hoaxing. But yeah, as stated, if we know somebody's up to something where they're trying to discredit what we're doing, we'll just, yeah, no longer reach out to them. But if somebody doesn't necessarily have, say, like what we believe is a dogman encounter at that point in time, yeah, we'll always try to keep a very positive rapport and help these people out. Yet sometimes, how do you feel about? Do you pick up on any red flags? Do you think ever when you approach things? Have you ever noticed any things that stand out to you that you've been able to immediately kind of in your mind be like, I think this individual's trying to yank my chain or something, or?
Oh, definitely. There was one case that I worked on that we did the investigation. We had stuff happen. We debrief after a couple days later. Come to find out, we are like the sixth or seventh team of people that have come into that location, and we've all had the same conclusions with minor differences just based on time and weather and just variables. But yeah, it's definitely, there's been some cases where we've come across people that were like, okay, something's a little fishy here. We're not getting the full story.
Exactly. No. And I agree. And unfortunately, like I was stating, that some of the things we have dealt with, and it's just unfortunate because not only are they wasting yours, mine, and other people's time, they're also making the research that people are trying to do more murky and more misinformation, and putting out stuff now that, yeah, basically discredits things that people have actually tried to bring merit to. How have you handled, I guess, when people tried to, say, mislead you and your team? Were you very quick to pick up on that, and did you immediately leave, or how did that unfold? I guess I'm just really interested because, like I said, I deal with a ton of this stuff myself, and it's just very interesting to hear others and how, because it's very similar, even though you're dealing with paranormal and I'm dealing with Dogman. If someone is trying to stage something or potentially mislead us, some of the body language and signs are going to be very similar. So it's definitely helpful and useful to always be updated and stuff like this.
Mm-hmm. Like the first sign that we noticed that something was off was the person said that the house had no power and no water. We get there, all the lights are on. We can see the electric box actually running, counting the volts and amperage hours. And then we just, like, they lied to us about this. Let's double check, make sure they didn't lie to us about the water. It turns out there was water going to the house and running. So that was kind of our first indication of something might be up. And then after our first investigation, we found out through mutual friends that, hey, this isn't the first time they've had people out, or even the sixth time. They keep having people come out. Something's probably up. We ended up doing a follow-up investigation just because the client was so persistent, like, no, this place is haunted, that we cut off the electricity completely. We cut off the water completely. We didn't have a single thing happen. So we were basically forced to be like, okay, we don't think it's paranormal, but at the same time, we don't think you're flat out faking it. We think it's just misidentification.
That all makes sense, and that's an excellent way to approach that. And yeah, like you said, unfortunately, when you start getting a couple of red flags like that, it does make it where it's harder to necessarily process the rest of the encounter or what's unfolding, because I mean, unfortunately, if impressions aren't, I mean, when we're meeting these individuals, we don't know them directly. We're doing our best to try to pick up on body language, vibes, and I try to do my best on back checking, reaching out to others that know them, etc., and trying to figure out who knows them and if they can also bring clarity onto the topic. And then if you start being like, okay, well, these four people, I value their opinion, also just said nope, and then we got a couple red flags ourselves, yeah, it's super unfortunate. Around some of your areas when you've been doing any sort of paranormal stuff, did you or have you ever seen like maybe strange tracks that were potentially definitely had to be something that was physical? And also, have you maybe ever seen any sort of scratches or stuff that looked like physical claw marks, or heard strange vocalizations in any of the areas when you were doing some of your research?
The scratches, yes, but I don't think they were from anything flesh and blood. I think those were either just brushing up against something in the location, accidentally scratching us, or something that we couldn't see that was scratching us. But as for like vocalizations and tracks, I'll be honest, I don't really look for that stuff when I am out investigating. I am focused mainly on the paranormal. But there was one instance where I was actually just taking a friend out, just like, hey, this is a local haunted spot. Here's what's happened according to legend. Let's see if we can get something to happen. And it was a bridge, and over in the tree line, about probably 300 yards away, I saw something that was probably about 7-8 feet tall come out from behind a tree, and then I heard the tree fall over. So I don't think it was Dogman. I think it was maybe a Sasquatch, but I definitely saw something that night.
Dang, that's pretty creepy right there. And no, that totally makes sense. I mean, to do what you're trying to do properly, obviously, you have to be in the mindset of what you're trying to deal with. So that really definitely makes sense. I just didn't know perhaps if you had seen anything like that. But now that I'm thinking, I actually have people ask me this question all the time, and you seem like you would have a good answer for me because I don't know, like I said, really much about the paranormal whatsoever. And in a lot of these encounters where people are saying that they're seeing a dog man, these creatures or animals are trying to open up windows, they're trying to open up car doors, they're leaving damage on property, footprints, they're taking livestock, people's pets, they're howling, they're seen where it looks like a straight up full entity. I mean, we've had reports where people have shined flashlights before and the lights went through, but that would be, like I said, more of the hellhound paranormal stuff. I'm talking about people saying they're banging on the side of their house. So all the things I just stated, again, I don't know much about the paranormal. If it wasn't a living physical thing, if it was just paranormal, would it be able to do all the things I just stated? Or would it be doing those? Like, would it be eating like someone's pet?
I don't know about the eating someone's pet thing. I haven't heard any reports of that through my research. But in Native American cultures, both in like the Southwest, the Uinta Basin area up in Utah, Wyoming, Idaho, and as well in the Appalachian Mountains, Native Americans have legends about skinwalkers and wendigos. And long story short, there have been sightings of translucent figures knocking on doors, trying to open windows, knocking on car doors, leaving footprints. So I think there is a possibility that, yes, some of those sightings could have been misidentifications of the skinwalkers and wendigos and other Native American entities.
Super interesting right there. Yeah, no, I totally agree with that aspect. And I try to explain to a lot of my viewers and people I work with that the Wendigo and Skinwalkers is definitely under the description of people's reports of Dogman, but it definitely varies from some of the other stuff we've spoken about tonight, like the hyenas and baboon type like ones. And again, we have reports that people have shot them, run them over by mistake, and that they take damage, they scream, there is blood and stuff. And again, I don't know much about the paranormal aspects of things, but now, like you had just educated me on some stuff, that is interesting. And it does make it, I guess, a little bit harder sometimes to be able to distinguish that now so much. But again, have you ever heard of, say, a paranormal type entity being injured by bullets, knives, or a car, or leaving blood and such after being wounded?
No, I've never heard anything like that.
Okay, so that again brings merit to that. Some of these must actually be something physical, such as you and I. And okay, that's great because, like I said, I've always in my head kind of thought if it was trying to open the window and someone's seeing it here and it's full in front of them and they can smell it and it's breathing on the window and leaving footprints and stuff, that it would really mean it was physical. But some of the things you were just telling me, and also I was informed, I guess, correct me if I'm wrong, that with some of the older days when people were doing paranormal research, they would put down flour or salt on the floor and there would be tracks left sometimes by paranormal entities. So that, again, if that is correct, would prove that a paranormal being can leave tracks. So that would also, again, make it hard to distinguish whether it was physical or paranormal.
That's 100% true, and I do something very similar on my investigations, but I use vibration sensors instead of flour to leave no trace at the location.
Ah, excellent, which is how great with the technology advancement. And okay, yes, that makes a ton of sense right there. So again, it's good to just get some clarity on that topic because as I said in my head, I'm just really trying to figure out because we do know a ton of these are falling into the paranormal aspect, but then a ton are not as well. Because I mean, if something is seen eating on the side of the road, like we've seen in reports that they're eating road or people's pets. They've been seen drinking water. Again, I don't think poltergeist and paranormal things need to eat, correct? I mean, someone could see a rendition of maybe them eating in the past, but that would be a rendition of their spirit, correct? It wouldn't be them just reaching over and taking a burger out of the fridge or something and eating, correct?
No, 100% correct. What they're
Oh,
seeing when they see a spirit or what have you eating is they're seeing more of a just replay of past events. And that's very common with, especially with a lot of the hauntings around my area. It's just more of a residual haunting instead of an intelligent one.
okay, excellent. Thank you for verifying that because that would make sense as well. And that just brings more to the table when I'm able to sit down and explain to people, like, hey, I did speak to people that are very educated in this topic, and paranormal things aren't going to just sit there and take a big chunk out of your pet like that and keep gnawing on it and such, because we have a ton of those encounters where you and I, we need to eat, we need to sleep. And like I said, these things are eating, drinking, and living around areas like that, which solidifies there has to be some sort of physical stuff going on too. So it's really important to hit all sides of it. And I know the North American Dogman Project, we have it listed as potentially extraterrestrial, potentially paranormal, and potentially physical. And I always use the word potential because until any of this is solidified, it is potential in my eyes.
Mm-hmm.
Because yes, like I'm never gonna say this is a Dogman picture or this is a Dogman vocalization. I'm gonna say potential because again, until someone can verify that 100% that that came from a quote unquote Dogman, it is potential. And I think it's a mistake a lot of people I know in the Dogman community make is everything is always a Dogman. Every shadow is a Dogman. Every sound in the forest, which natural animals make crazy noise, is a Dogman. Every large canine footprint is a Dogman, which no, it's not. There's large wolves, there's large coyotes, etc. But yes, there are the anomalies that we are sent that we can't justify or verify. But I really just wish people would take a little bit more time and realize the proper information is out there, whether it's the field I'm researching or the field you're researching. And people should just take the time and realize people that are trying to specialize in these topics have the proper information and are willing to spread and sit down with individuals. But for some reason, it just seems like we as humans just like a good story. We don't like the truth for some reason.
Mm-hmm. It's the same way in my field. I used to help out on ghost tours, and every ghost tour I would get 5, 6 people coming up to me. Look, I caught a ghost on camera. It was just a speck of dust or an errant glow from or glare from somebody's phone or a light in the area. And back to your point about always saying potential, I wish more investigators would do that instead of saying, because to the paranormal, at least in the community that I'm in, everything is black and white. Either it's a ghost, it's a demon, or it's nothing. And everybody, unfortunately, deals in absolutes with that. So I wish more people would say, yes, this is potentially a ghost. Yes, this is probably haunted. Or, no, this is most likely nothing serious. You can just ignore it.
Excellently stated, my friend. And it is super important to do that stuff because at the end of the day, like I tell everybody, I've had no paranormal encounters. I've never seen anything paranormal based. I've never seen a dog, man, Sasquatch, any of those. Okay. I just know that, yes, things are occurring out there. And that's why I'm trying to document it because I know people are missing and I know potentially people are seeing these type of things that are occurring, but it's, as you stated, not in definition as to what's occurring. And I just think it's not proper to bend the narrative to the public if it's not correct. Okay. If it's a bare noise, then it should be figured out whether or not it was a bear noise first before it's posted out as, oh, this is a Dogman howl, you know? I mean, because then we're misleading everybody. And like you stated, that's just not a good way to approach things. Actually, before we let you get back to what you're doing here, quick question again, my friend. I always try to explain this to people as well, because I've had people tell me that they think portals are opening and etc. And I've seen some of the videos. You just tapped on it, and I try to explain to people that our phones and things pick up dust particles sometimes, and especially in areas that are dusty and things are naturally in the forest. There's pollen and dust that go around. So yeah, a lot of times I feel like that's what people are showing me, and you pretty much just kind of tapped on that, I feel like.
And you also have to factor in that compared to like professional Nikon, Canon cameras, the cameras on our phones, they suck, especially in low light conditions where most of the reporting sightings of Dogman or what have you, or anything in my field are happening. So that's just another layer of, okay, this could just be technology messing with our eyes.
Preach, my friend. That's excellent. Well, again, thank you for stopping by tonight and hanging out with us. I would definitely like to get you on again and get your take a little bit more to kind of dissect some of the potential paranormal and physical stuff we have going on, because you have a really good eye of what's occurring, and also especially the paranormal aspect. So I think you can put together and put to rest a lot of stuff that is being presented to us.
Oh, absolutely. I'd love to come back on.
Thank you for everyone who once again stopped by tonight for another episode of Midnight Lycanthropy here on StarFox Radio. If you do enjoy my content and would like me to continuously churn it out, then as always, please like, subscribe, and feed the algorithm. I will see you on the next one.